It's recording. Hey everyone, and welcome to Chef AJ Live. I'm your host, Chef AJ, and this is where I introduce you to amazing people like you who are doing great things in the world that I think you should know about. My guest today is Dr. Sheela Nambiar. She's broadcasting from India, and please welcome her to the show. It's so nice to meet you.
Hi, Chef AJ. It's such a privilege because I've been following you for so long and I love what you do. So I'm really privileged to be on your show.
Well, thank you so much. It's so nice to meet you. And I'm so excited about the whole lifestyle medicine movement that's taking place in India. And I know that you're a lifestyle medicine doctor, but you're also an OBGYN. So how did lifestyle medicine come to be in your practice and how are you incorporating it?
Yeah, well, it's a long story and it's an old story. When I was in med school, there was this one quote by Thomas Edison, which said, "The doctor of the future gives no medicines, but he interests his patients in, the care of the body, exercise, etc." And that really stayed with me. And when I started to practice, when I finished my MD and came to start to practice, this is way back in 1994, I did start to notice that a lot of my patients, what they really lacked was a proper fitness routine. And at that point, I was focusing mainly on exercise. And I went and did a training course in fitness as a fitness consultant from the US. And I started actually teaching exercise classes to women, and I taught my nurses to teach antenatal and postnatal classes and incorporated diet as well into my prescriptions. So I'm talking about like 2000, in the year 2000. And at that time, lifestyle medicine didn't really exist, Chef AJ. It was just something that I felt needed to be done for the women. There was so much diabetes, there was so much, infertility and things like back pain and of course, obesity. And then as we went along, I got interested in positive psychology. And it was as late as, I think, 2017 that I discovered that there was an actual field called lifestyle medicine. I didn't know it existed. And I went off to attend the conference of the Asian Society of Lifestyle Medicine in Taiwan. And then the next one in Manila. And there was no looking back after that. We came back to India and a few of us founded the Indian Society of Lifestyle Medicine. And then I went and took my boards and those days it was not available in India. So I had to go to Edinburgh to take my boards in lifestyle medicine and came back. And today it's like a full-fledged organization. And I was just looking at the number of people wanting, who are interested, physicians, many OBGYNs, by the way, who are very interested and want to, certify. So for me, it was, I love exercise. It started with that. I love exercise. And I know that it's not just about the physical as far as exercise goes, right? It gives you the right emotional framework. It makes you feel good, makes you feel more productive through the day. I know how my days go when I don't exercise versus when I do, which is why I felt it was so important. So starting with just exercise and nutrition, now we've been, lifestyle medicine incorporates all the 6 pillars. So I've started incorporating that into my patient prescriptions as well. And I also have another, a program called Training for Life, which is a side of my obstetric practice where, women who are not necessarily sick, but who want to lose weight, for instance, or they've been diagnosed with metabolic syndrome. They're referred by other doctors to manage their weight and their health. I see them and I do lifestyle medicine consults. So it's kind of merged, and I've been very fortunate that I've been able to merge it so effortlessly. And I just love it. I mean, for me, lifestyle medicine is a passion. And I'm hoping that at some point I can do just lifestyle medicine, because obstetrics is very, very stressful. I've done it for 25 years and it's very stressful. So, yeah.
Every lifestyle medicine doctor I talk to says the same thing. They're so passionate about their specialty. And I believe it's like the newest specialty in medicine. It's the latest board certification. Yes. But is there a global organization that, like you're saying, you had to go to Edinburgh? I know that we have lifestyle medicine in the United States, but is there an organization that connects the lifestyle medicine doctors worldwide?
Yes, there is. And that's the nicest part about lifestyle medicine. There is an organization called the Lifestyle Medicine Global Alliance, LMGA, and they have many sister concerns. So all of us, like India has become a sister concern. And we became a sister concern earlier this year. And there are many other countries like Sri Lanka, Philippines, all of these. And the other organization, well, it's part of LMGA, I think, or they're associated with LMGA, called the International Board of Lifestyle Medicine, IBLM. They are the ones who hold the exams. So now that ISLM, which is the Indian Society of Lifestyle Medicine, is in India, and we are a sister concern, we can actually have the exam in India, which is great for the physicians wanting to do the exam here. And obviously this year, I think it's going to be virtual as well because of the pandemic. So, so we're going to have it here. And I think having this global organization makes it that much more interesting, because we have, you know, we can attend each other's conferences, and there's a lot of communication between the lifestyle medicine physicians across the globe. We have a WhatsApp group, you know, where we're constantly chatting with each other. So it's really very, very interesting. We get insights from all over.
To be certified in lifestyle medicine, do you have to have another specialty first, or could there be a day where that is just what someone chooses?
Yeah, you can just do your undergrad, which is your, it's called the MBBS here. You don't need a specialty. This can be your specialty. And, you know, and you can work with this. And we usually work as a team. You know, we could have a dietitian on board. You could have a exercise physiologist on board. You could have a psychologist on board. And a couple of lifestyle medicine physicians could get together and, you know, it could become like a group practice. Or you could do it all yourself if that's what you want to do, you know. So yeah, so you don't need a specialty. You could do just this. I know a lot of youngsters these days are wanting to do this. You know, I've got messages from those who've just graduated saying, can we do this? Can we sit for the exam? And most certainly they can. I think it'll be a huge benefit to them and their patients as well.
One of the reasons I love to do these shows and feature lifestyle medicine doctors is I always say to people, you know, a lot of people that I work with are vegan or plant-based and they want a vegan doctor. And I go, well, you maybe can find one, but make sure you also find one that's a lifestyle medicine doctor, because it's such a different type of experience. I didn't get a lifestyle medicine doctor till I was in my early 60s. And I remember the first appointment, I wasn't even sick. I was just, it was like a meet and greet. The first appointment was like an hour. And like, I've never had a doctor ever say, what do you eat? How much do you sleep? How much do you exercise? What's your stress level? What is your relationships like? And I'm like, it's so different. And maybe in case people aren't familiar with the 6 pillars of lifestyle medicine, you could go over them.
Yeah, well, David Katz, one of the ex-presidents of the American College, he put it together very nicely. He said, feet, fork, and fingers, sleep, stress, and relationships. So your feet is your exercise, your fork is your food, fingers is addictions, cigarette smoking, and of course, all the other addictions, and sleep, stress, and relationships. So these are the 6 main pillars of lifestyle medicine. And we go through the history of each one of them, you know, discussed with the patient, and there are questionnaires, and there are, you know, assessment forms. And we use a technique called motivational interviewing, where we talk to the patient and get them, you know, get the right kind of responses. You know, you need to be able to get them to talk. And you actually, one of the things I think that we learn as lifestyle medicine physicians is that you become more of a coach rather than a doctor giving instructions. You know, as a doctor, you just write a prescription and then the patient just follows instructions, one in the morning, one in the afternoon. And I must say, many patients are actually, they want to do that. They're happy to do that, you know, but then as they get more empowered, they realize that they have to participate in their health and in their getting better, or in their losing weight, or whatever it is. It's far more empowering to actually participate in the process rather than take a prescription across a table and just follow instructions. You know, that can only last so long. So,
Yeah, I love that idea of when you said fingers, I was thinking about every addiction, and you're right, like iPhone, everything, you use your fingers,
Oh,
eating,
yes.
smoking, drinking. If they should invent some gloves that are like boxing gloves that like you can't take them off except at certain times, because then people couldn't do that. That is fascinating. You mentioned about exercise, and I feel like most of the people that come to me, they want to lose weight, but they don't want to change their lifestyle. And so they don't want to work on sleep. They don't want to really, because you could live to a very old age without exercise. I know that because I used to be an activity director at a retirement home, and these people were still living into their hundreds. They weren't healthy. They couldn't get up unassisted from the toilet, but they were still alive. You have to eat, that's just non-negotiable. And it seems like the other 5 pillars, people aren't as interested in, especially if they want to lose weight. They just want to change the food, but they don't want to stop smoking or drinking or look at their sleep or relationships or stress. And that's why what you do is so important, because I always tell people, the diet that I'm going to recommend to you to lose weight is a diet that all of us eat that aren't overweight. It's a diet to make you healthy, but people don't come to it from that angle often.
Yeah, you're right. And it's interesting that diet somehow seems to be the easiest thing that people lean towards when it comes to especially weight loss. They seem to think it's the easiest thing to do, and perhaps it is. I've thought about it a lot. Like for me, diet wouldn't be an easy thing. If I had to change, it wouldn't be the easiest thing to do, but I find many people find it's the easiest thing to do, and as long as they can sustain it, I guess that's really great. I mean, it does do a lot for their health, even if they don't do everything else. But having said that, definitely addressing the other aspects, especially like you said, the sleep, which most people just don't realize is so important. We just, things like our phone, for instance, or our devices, the blue light, and you're up, you're watching Netflix, or you're reading something on your computer or on iPad, and you're just so sleep deprived. And Chef AJ, being an OBGYN, I've been sleep deprived most of my life. And I know what it's like. I know what it feels like not to sleep and then to be able to sleep. Such a huge difference between the way you feel, your productivity. Sometimes you don't realize it, till you actually get a good night's sleep. And then you say, oh my God, like I was in zombie land a couple of days ago, And as for exercise, I mean, it's a very small percentage of people who actually enjoy it, honestly. But I think you can learn to like it. And I think you can learn to like what it does for you, even if you don't like it. You may not like that 1 hour where you're puffing and panting and you're, out of your comfort zone, basically. But then the after effects are so good, including how good you feel about yourself, that you get quite addicted to that. You enjoy that. So then you go back to exercising again. At least that's what I hope to do when I train my clients. I want to inspire them to enjoy at least the after effects, if not the exercise itself.
Yeah, that is profound, and people have to pay attention to them. It's sort of like, I don't really like doing the dishes, but I do them because I like the effect of having a clean house and having clean dishes. So I don't like, I don't want to do the dishes. And it's like with exercise, I don't think I really enjoy it, but what I do is I make it as enjoyable as possible, because that's when I allow myself Netflix. You see, I have a trick. I don't let myself watch television except if I'm on the spin bike, and then I can watch my juicy show. I'm watching a French show right now called Call My Agent. So I don't even think about it. I can't wait to get on the bike, because then I get to watch my show. So that's what I did that. I didn't exercise till I was in my 50s. So I just want people to know it's never too late to get bitten by the exercise bug. And when people say, well, there's nothing I like, and like they say that about vegetables too, I go, just eat the vegetable you hate the least, do the exercise you hate the least, because eventually you say, like, now it's a non-negotiable, because I almost never don't exercise, except like maybe on a day I have an early, like I have a 6 a.m. flight coming up. I just can't see myself getting up any earlier than 3:30. So, but other than extenuating circumstances, if I miss it, I feel terrible. It's like, it's my psychiatric medicine, really.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Cruelty. I think more than the physical, people tend to not realize the huge, huge, huge psychological benefits that it has. You feel so good, you feel so energized, positive, you're not in a grumpy mood. Just a walk, if you're feeling stressed, completely de-stresses you. At least it de-stresses me, and I know it does that for a lot of people. And where I live, Chef AJ, it's beautiful. There's a lot of nature, and so I can get out and go out into the mountains, and there are these steep inclines. So working out outdoors is a pleasure here, except when it's raining, of course, as it is now. But you have to, like you said, you have to find something that you at least dislike the least, of all the things. And there are so many options, now you've got so many options online. If there's anything that the pandemic has done, anything good the pandemic has done, it's the online classes. I mean, you can access them from anywhere. So there's no excuse, really.
Right. I mean, and there's things that there are new things all the time. Like I never even heard of pickleball. And then it is the funnest thing I've ever done. And you can be out there and 3 hours have gone by and you don't feel like you're exercising. You're just
Okay.
having fun.
So what is that?
It's okay. So it's this game and it's called pickleball. It's played on a smaller tennis court with 2 to 4 people using a ping pong paddle and a wiffle ball. It sounds crazy, but it's a fast paced, really fun game and old people can play it. I mean, I live in a gated senior community and it's a big deal with seniors because it's not quite as hard as tennis. You don't have to run quite as much, but you have to be able to move and it's fun. If you have it in India, it's really a fun game. It's really pickleball. The guy that invented it named it after his dog Pickles, I guess. It's a crazy game, and now it's a thing, and it's a big sport, and they have tournaments. Okay. But it's really, really fun. So what I'm saying is, people should look into trying things. Like aerial yoga is something I tried. That was really fun. So people, when you think about it, our ancestors didn't have to exercise. All the pillars of lifestyle medicine were done by our ancestors because they lived in small groups. So they had the community. They had to sleep at night because if they didn't go in the cave, they'd get eaten. There were no Netflix or iPhones. They had to eat healthy food because that's all pretty much they had. And they had to move. So it's funny how if we could just go back to the way people were when.
I know. It's like full circle, and we're actually just undoing everything that we've created, isn't it? All the processed food and all the excess of meat products and all of that. Sugar is, everything's man-made. And then of course the sedentary lifestyle. I think in India, that's a huge problem, the sedentary lifestyle, because, we have a lot of help as well here. So which means that, if you can afford the help, which most middle class and of course the upper middle class can afford, we don't do any physical work. We just don't do anything, so it's always sitting, it's always, maybe just walking around or supervising something, but there's no physical work, which means you have to be doing artificial things like jumping on a treadmill, because often people ask me, they say, oh, but a treadmill is so artificial, but your life is artificial, isn't it? So you do need to do something to combat what you're essentially practicing. And then of course we have besides the fact that India is such a diverse country with just so many different kinds of cuisine, Chef AJ, now we also have the Western influence. Right? So you have all the fast foods, you have our own fast foods, which is equally bad. What we call the street food, delicious, if you like the greasy, cheesy, creamy kind of things, sugary kind of things. So the combination of that is deadly, is absolutely deadly. And one of the problems in India, I think, is that we consume far too much of the grains. While grains are healthy, we just consume far too much of it. And the quantity of even the vegetarians, the so-called vegetarians, consume very little vegetables. And the vegetables are overcooked and they're killed and then they're resuscitated with some oil and the seasoning and all of that. So all in all, while the cuisine is pretty delicious, I'm not sure about the health quotient, especially the more modern kind of cooking. I think the traditional cooking maintained a lot of the nutrition, but the modern cooking doesn't really.
Yeah, that is so interesting. And I did read somewhere that fast food, at least the American versions, are really on the rise in India. So I'm guessing obesity
Oh,
and diabetes are also on the rise.
it is huge. It is huge. You will see a pizza shop at every street in the cities. I mean, even where I live, which is a little town actually, we have 2 or 3 pizza places. We have burgers, and we have, of course, the pastry shops. So it's just unbelievable. It is unbelievable. Yeah.
I mean, that the one good thing about the pandemic for some people is they didn't get exposed to those things.
Yes. I think that's, again, it has some positives, a lot of negatives, but some positives, I suppose. Yeah, but we do have delivery.
That's true. Yes. Dash
So-
door people. That's right. Some people did take advantage of that, but there were some people that did really well for the first time, being able to control their environment and actually
Yes.
start eating healthy and not
Yes.
have that commute, get the sleep and get the exercise. That's such
Yes.
an interesting point you make, that that people think the treadmill is not natural, but
unnatural. Yeah.
neither is the food most people are eating.
Yeah, I've heard that so many times. They would say, like, why do you advise us to walk on the treadmill, doctor? It's such an unnatural thing to do, to walk on a moving belt, but we lead such unnatural lives now. If you think about it, all these additions which are causing so much of disease. So we do need to combat it. And especially if you can't go out and exercise, ideally, I mean, outdoors in the sun would be great. But if you can't, and especially in the cities, it's very difficult because there's so much pollution as well. So then you have the gyms, which is a more controlled environment, and which is less, the chances of injury are less. You have a trainer around, you're supervised. So I think that's an ideal situation given the circumstances, definitely.
It's interesting because you call them additions, and then if you add a C, these additions often turn into addictions.
Yes, they do.
For a lot
Yes.
of people. That's what I see. To the problem is these fast foods, these processed foods full of sugar, fat, and salt. They become addictive, like, to so many people, and then the whole natural foods, like the vegetables, just don't taste good.
Yes. But on the other hand, when you stop sugar completely, and then you just focus on your fruits and vegetables, and for the sweet flavor, if that's what you like, you really can't go back to eating sugar. It's too sweet. It's way too sweet. And I don't know if you've tasted Indian sweets, Chef AJ, they are way more sweet. The sugar quotient is much higher. They're very, 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 very sweet. So you really can't eat, at least you can't eat much of it, because you've gone off it completely and almost detoxed, so it becomes too much. The flavor becomes too much.
Now, that's interesting, that process of neuroadaptation.
Yes.
When and how do you use lifestyle medicine in your OBGYN practice? Is it before the woman conceives, or like if she presents to you and maybe she's already overweight and has some maybe not so great habits, how can you once they're pregnant say, okay, now you got to start exercising, now you got to start eating healthy?
Yeah. So in my OBGYN practice, they usually come with some problem or the other, like they would have a heavy bleed, or it may be a young woman trying to conceive and she's been diagnosed with, let's say, polycystic ovaries, or they could have, endometriosis, or they could be, in my obstetric practice, they could be pregnant. So anywhere along anywhere along the spectrum, when they come to me in my practice, we always take a dietary call. In fact, even before they meet me, I get a dietary call from them. And then we get, of course, their vital statistics and all of that. And then after we finish the consultation, in fact, as we are going through the consultation, I'm talking to them about everything else as well, their stress levels, their sleep, their, social connectedness, and all of that. And in the final, when the advice comes up, I always, I don't force lifestyle medicine onto every patient, Chef AJ, because they've come to me with a specific problem. But I will always lay it out there that if they want to change what's happening to them in a more holistic way and in a more permanent way, then they will have to change aspects of their lifestyle. So, I would refer to their diet sheet, for instance, their dietary call, and talk to them about what they could perhaps change. And then they may opt to actually go in for a a more specific diet consultation. And I would talk to them about their exercise, especially if they are, struggling to lose weight, they have polycystic ovaries, so then they are more keen to adapt these kind of lifestyle changes when they feel that it can solve their problem, their medical problem. So for instance, I had a patient with endometriosis. She had such severe pain because her endometriosis was on her sciatic nerve, which was diagnosed by MRI. And she had such severe pain that she couldn't put her left foot down on the ground. It was so bad. And she would come into my clinic and she would be limping. And she went plant-based mostly, but she didn't stop dairy. She was, still consuming cheese, and she's actually Finnish. She's not Indian. So she was still consuming dairy and things like that. And she was trying to exercise a bit. And then, of course, she implemented the stress reduction because her stress levels were pretty high. And her pain levels came down, but she was still struggling. And she would sometimes tell me about her insomnia. She was waking up at night till finally she gave up dairy as well completely. And you will not believe how she is. She's literally, she walked into my clinic the other day. There was no limp, there was nothing. And she said, I can't believe it. I just cannot believe that going completely vegan without any animal products and sugar has helped to literally eliminate the pain. So it's obviously reduced her inflammation levels in her body, and she's feeling so much better. And of course, now she's talking about, going no animal products, and she's talking to other people, which is helping other people. So that's really great. And in pregnancy, Chef AJ, I find that it's a really good window of opportunity to influence women, because women, they do, they're very conscious about, a healthy baby and staying healthy. And we know that things like preeclampsia and, hypertension and diabetes, they are based on diet and exercise and your pre-pregnancy health conditions. So when I, again, get their dietary call and start talking to them about implementing a whole food plant-based diet and increasing their quantity of vegetables that they have to eat, they do it. Even I see a lot of rural patients, even a lot of village women, and most of these village women are used to consuming huge volumes of rice, but very little vegetables and some amount of beans. That would be their daily diet. And many of them really turn it around and consume much more vegetables. So when we get their dietary call, every time they come, you can see the changing pattern of their plate, and that's so rewarding. And they feel good too. They're able to sleep better. They don't have indigestion. So yeah, I use it anyway. I mean, it's a rather long answer I gave you, but yeah, I use it wherever I can. I use lifestyle medicine wherever I can.
It's so interesting how you said they're willing to change when they're pregnant, because I've known women that smoked and drank, but stopped for the 9 months of their pregnancy, only to pick it up afterwards. And I'm thinking, gosh, if you could stop it for 9 months for your baby, can't you stop it forever for yourself?
Yeah, I don't, I guess it's that instinct that wants you to protect the fetus growing inside of you, and you want the best for it and you want the best for yourself. So it's an ideal time to change. But unfortunately for some women, they're already diabetic and they're already hypertensive. And while the changes that they do try to make does help, many of them still do need, let's say, insulin, and they need antihypertensive medication to prevent preeclampsia. So it's not that lifestyle medicine is saying no medication at all. Obviously, it's a complement to allopathic medicine. It's not against allopathic medicine in any way. And that's why when physicians say, as an orthopedician, can I do lifestyle medicine? It's open to everybody, and it's applicable to every single specialty. And I think it will benefit every single physician if they would, even if they don't take the exam, they may not want to take the exam, but if they could, even join our organization and get educated and come to the conferences and webinars. We have monthly webinars through ISLM. So if they do that, they would definitely benefit both themselves as well as the patients.
You mentioned some of your patients have PCOS and endometriosis, and I've actually had guests on this show that when they went on a plant exclusive, oil-free diet, got rid of both of those conditions.
Yeah.
And were able, and sometimes there was infertility involved, and then they were able to conceive afterwards.
Yes, yes, absolutely, absolutely. I've seen it too, especially with infertility. You know, they come saying they've been married maybe a year or two and they're overweight, and they want to start treatment right away. And I don't start ovulation induction right away. I tell them you have to come back. Of course, monitor continuously, but come back and let's start the medication, let's say after 3 months. If you don't conceive spontaneously, 3 or 6 months. Once you start implementing lifestyle change and you start losing that weight, many of them conceive spontaneously. So it's and then they feel so good about it because they feel that they've done it themselves, and they get their husband into the act. I always like to involve the family, at least the family that the woman lives with, because it's very difficult to implement these changes on your own. You can't cook separately for yourself all the time. So, when the family, and many of our women live with their in-laws, their mother-in-law, and their, it's like a little joint family. So you have to talk to all of them as well, because otherwise she gets grief when she goes back and, she doesn't cook the way that they're used to cooking. So it takes a bit of talking in a group setting, and that seems to help a lot. That seems to help.
Oh. You mentioned that you can get them to increase their vegetables while they're pregnant. Do they keep that vegetable intake high? And why are they eating so few vegetables? Is it because they dislike them? Is it the availability?
I think it's cultural, Chef AJ. I think most of them, maybe they've not really experienced eating so many vegetables. Culturally, we eat much, much more of the grain. We would serve ourselves a lot of rice and we would eat the vegetable as a side dish. Very rarely would we have like a salad as a main dish. So especially in, the more traditional conservative Indians would first eat rice, and then they would eat, they would eat the rice with one particular curry, and then they would have the next serving of rice with the next curry, and then they would have the next serving of rice with something else, and they would end it with rice and yogurt. This is a common practice. Or they would have rotis, which is made of wheat, and then you would have the rotis with a side dish like a vegetable. So that's a whole lot of grains and cereals with very little of the side dish.
I must have been Indian in a past life because I love rice, and I think that is the ultimate comfort food.
I love rice too, yeah, because it is something we've grown up with. But you need to keep it in moderation. You can't overdo it,
Yeah, that's so, because I eat most of my starch comes from, believe it or not, potatoes and sweet potatoes, but there is something, just the smell, the aromatic smell of rice when you're cooking it. And anytime I have a stomach ache, like that is the one thing, like a lot of people say, oh, have a ginger ale. Like for me, anytime rice, it just automatically I love it.
So what do you have it with?
Well, when I have a stomach ache, when I eat rice in my life, I'm eating it with a lot of vegetables, a lot. But like on the rare occasions when I have a tummy ache, just a little bit of rice, just
plain rice?
Yeah, plain white rice. When I have a stomach ache, it's like, I don't know, there's just something so comforting about it. But there are people that have told me like, I can't eat grains. I overeat. I mean, so maybe there are some people, like you say, that for them, it's not such a good thing to eat them or eat them in abundance.
Yeah. I would think that in abundance, anything is not quite okay, isn't it? If you talking about stomach aches, we would have the version of rice which we call kanji over here, which is a little brothy. It's cooked with a lot of water and a little salt. So that's like comfort food. When you're unwell, you're given that, and when you're well, we eat it.
No, it's very good. I was mentioning before the show Chef Darshan, and she actually made it on one of the summits.
Okay.
It just looked delicious, but there is just something so comforting. It's interesting you mentioned that a lot of people can afford help. So I'm guessing the help is probably healthier than the people they work for, since they're actually doing the work.
Well, I think traditionally, yes, they would be much healthier. But what has happened now is that even the people who help, they also are exposed to really cheap fast food as well, and really cheap oils, and of course we have what is called as a ration, which is free food, which is free grains and free oil and free sugar. So they do consume a lot of that as well. And then in the houses, many houses have vacuum cleaners and equipment. So it's not as strenuous as it used to be before. So yes, while they may be a little more healthy, I think it's unfortunate that the lower socioeconomic group of Indians as well, the diabetes, the incidence of diabetes is very high because they have been exposed to the slightly better quality of life in terms of economics, and so they're able to afford things that maybe they couldn't afford before, like a lot of rice, sugar, a lot of sugar, oil, etc. And then of course fast foods and street food is very cheap. So, then you tend to eat, that's what you tend to eat. And it's absolutely deadly, absolutely deadly. You have bread fried in oil and then dipped in cheese and deep fried.
Oh my God, that is a
Yeah.
recipe for a heart attack. It's too bad that the rations have to be for oil and sugar instead of fruits and vegetables.
Yes. Oh yes, yes. You don't get fruits and vegetables in the ration, and that's what I tell people. When you, instead of spending X amount of money on, let's say, even meat, which is very expensive here, use that money to buy the vegetables, and you'll see how much better your health gets. So and many of them do it too. I mean, they kind of don't think about it actually. And then when you tell them something like your medication per month costs X amount of money, if you could set that aside and buy vegetables and fruit, you could actually head your way to better health.
Yeah. Well, what you eat is so important.
Yeah.
Did you always eat healthfully and exercise?
Yeah, I think pretty much, although we used to eat meat, I used to eat meat quite a large part of my life. It's only been about 15 years now that I've not, I don't eat meat. And it wasn't for health reasons at all, Chef AJ. When I went off meat, I did because of animal, because I love animals. And I just realized that, how can I say I love animals on the one hand and have all these animals at home and then eat? So for me, it was more ethical reasons. And my family eats meat. They all eat meat. And as children, we did eat a lot of meat. So, a lot of meat and fish. And like where I come from, which is from Kerala, we eat a lot of fish. So, so there was always fish or meat or eggs and of course, milk in the house. But I was also an athlete in school, so I loved physical activity, and I continued that in bits and pieces as much as I could when I was in college. I still remember when I was doing my post-graduation, which was in Manipal University. Me and my friend were probably the only two women who went to the gym. And, so the boys would be like, are you sure? And, and you want us to help you lift the weights and put them on the racks. And so we used to find it quite amusing. So yeah, I've been physical all my life, but my food has changed.
Wow, that's fantastic. Do you feel any different or better?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, it was just incredible, especially the dairy. I found that there was a lot of discomfort, abdominal discomfort, which I thought was normal, And I kind of also had to go off wheat. I don't eat too much of wheat because I find that gives me trouble too. But going whole food plant-based really was a game changer for me. I didn't intend to lose weight, but I did lose weight. I wasn't looking at weight loss per se, but I lost quite a bit of weight. In fact, I had to put it on again, by increasing the plant proteins, etc., and also training with weights. And yeah, I think it really makes you feel so much better,
Yeah.
emotionally as well,
Well, thank you for adding that compassion piece, because Dr. Shah, who was on yesterday, said the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think many people, but I think, when you talk about whole food plant-based diet, I think you need to reach them or connect with them in a language that they understand. You know, for some people, it's about health. For some people, it may be environment, for instance, you know, and some people, it could be the animals. So, you know, to my patients, I would talk to them depending on what really interests them and gets them.
Is that where the motivational interviewing comes in?
Yes, yes, yes.
What if
So
they don't care about any of it?
well, I think it's about talking to them a couple of times. Something strikes home, you know. I mean, some of them never change, Chef AJ, and I think that's something that we have to live with. You know, some people don't really want to, and that's up to them. But I find that most people, it connects. And if nothing else, what I find is that at least people cut down on the amount of meat and animal products that they consume. If not go completely whole food plant-based, at least they cut down on it. They're not eating it every day. They eat it maybe once a week. So that's better than nothing. I think that's better than nothing.
I think it's important. We have to identify those that absolutely refuse to change and just stop trying to get them to change. But I don't mind if people don't change, but just don't be a burden to me.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not going to take care of you because you've got a preventable disease. So you're the president of the Indian Society of Lifestyle Medicine. Tell me a little bit about that, and as president, what you're going to do and what your society does.
Yes, well, we're almost a year into the into when I since I took over, and I and my team took over. My team and I took over, and well, we're going to have a conference towards the end of this year in November. And because it's a pandemic, it's a virtual conference, which means we are really getting to have a lot of amazing speakers from across the globe, you know, talking to us at the conference. And we've started our membership drive. There was our website was down for a while, so we've reconstructed it. So which means that it'll open up to memberships again. And we've got a whole team of what we call as various directors of membership, directors of alliance. So we're trying to form alliances with different organizations. We did a couple of sessions with PCRM. I think you'll be familiar with them. Yeah, so and then we're also trying to collaborate with universities to try and include lifestyle medicine into, that's something that we want to do. I don't know if it'll happen immediately, but try and include lifestyle medicine into the medical curriculum, at least for you know, a couple of semesters, and that would be really great, you know, because then the young doctors would come out with that basic understanding of food and exercise, which I must say, Chef AJ, I didn't have when I came out of medical college. I didn't know much about nutrition or exercise. I exercised because I loved it, but you know, I didn't really know the science behind it, and certainly not the importance of it. So I think if we could do that, if we could include it into the curriculum, it would be a game changer. But what I think it's fairly new. It's just about 3 years old. I'm the second president, so the first 2 years we spent trying to, you know, establish the constitution and all of that. Now it's the membership drive, and I'm trying to. The main objective is trying to create an awareness for lifestyle medicine throughout India, and it's getting there. I mean, more and more physicians are getting interested. We're being invited to more and more medical societies to give talks on lifestyle medicine, which is great. And, you know, the physicians from different walks of life and dietitians and physiotherapists, all of them want to join. So it's going really well, and very excited. I have an amazing team with me. So it's going, I mean, we're very happy. I'm very happy.
Do you think that with the severity of COVID in India, it caused some people to maybe look at some lifestyle factors?
Yes, absolutely. Yes. You know, there was, because of we know that the research says that the comorbidities are more, I mean, the more comorbidities you have, the more severe the infection. So everybody's come to know about that. And, you know, everyone knows that obesity, you know, is one of the comorbidities. And I find that the interest in changing lifestyle is far more over the last 1 year. And also maybe because consultations are so much easier now with with Zoom and with telemedicine, we find that there are more and more patients reaching out, just asking for diet, exercise, how do I lose weight, what are the changes that I can make. Most certainly, COVID has made a difference. I think a lot of people have gotten interested in. I see a lot more people exercising, for instance, even here. There are many people going for walks and things like that.
That's fantastic. What do you think the difficulties have been trying to implement whole food plant-based in India?
I think dairy is a big thing, Chef AJ. In India, dairy is a really, really, really huge. We're very fond of our yogurt and milk in coffee and tea, and we drink several teas and coffees in a day. So I think dairy would be a big one. The other thing, of course, is culturally, we do have very, very exotic meat-based dishes, which are traditionally cooked during weddings and during, celebration. So not being able to cook those dishes or not being able to eat those dishes may be something that is problematic, and I think even though India is considered a vegetarian country, there are several states that do consume a lot of meat, and South India is supposed to be traditionally vegetarian, but then our milk consumption is a lot. We have a lot of sweets made of milk, for instance. So after a meal, you would have a sweet with a lot of sugar and milk. So probably it is also because traditionally, for instance, this field of alternative medicine called Ayurveda, which is from India, they do propagate ghee and milk, for instance. So, so there are a lot of traditional, a lot of Indians who follow some aspects of Ayurveda. They may not follow the entire thing, but, when you get these mixed messages saying ghee is good for your joints, for instance, or milk is good for something else. Milk and turmeric is, putting turmeric into milk and drinking it is good for you and good for inflammation, whatever it is. So I think these mixed messages make it very difficult.
Wow, it almost sounds like propaganda in a way, because the turmeric will be just as good in the soy milk.
Yeah, yes, of course. Yeah. But, in India, plant milk is not, it's just come in. It's not that popular. It's not universally available either over here. So I think that's why traditionally milk is very, very popular, and it's had in many, many different ways. So it's very difficult. I find that's the most difficult thing for people to change. They're able to.
It's difficult in the United States too, because I've heard people say it was easier to quit smoking than to quit cheese because of that addictive component. So morphine, people can't. Wow, that's got to be tough. It was interesting because yesterday Dr. Shah said that she was raised vegetarian, but also had this ethical component and didn't realize that the cruelty to animals was just as bad in the dairy industry, if not worse, than in the meat industry.
Yeah. I don't think people realize that. I don't think people think about that, the ethical aspect of it, because I'm sure if they do, it would create a lot of cognitive dissonance and would definitely make many of them not want to eat. You wouldn't want to eat meat, right? If you really thought about these things, because I know a lot of, like myself, when I was younger, I loved animals, but, I ate meat. I didn't really think about how that meat came on my plate. It was only when I did that I started getting really disturbed about it, and I had to stop. Yeah. So there is that disconnect between understanding what really goes on in this industry, meat industry, and in the dairy industry, and what we eat and what we love to eat, So many people don't make that connect.
Right. There's no such thing as a happy cow, honestly. And some people don't want to know.
Yeah. Do you know we have a cheese brand called Happy Cow?
Oh,
I don't know if you have it there.
There's no such thing. And there are people that, of course, don't want to know. But for those that do, it's illegal to even film. If people really saw what was going on in these factory farms and dairy farms, I think it would be a lot harder. But then again, I love Dr. Barnard's book, The Cheese Trap and Body Imbalance, because he really explains scientifically why it's so hard for people to give up these compounds.
Yeah.
That's just
And it's interesting you say that, because I remember when I gave up milk and milk products, one of the things that I kept thinking is, how would I give up cheese? That's the one I did. I mean, that did concern me quite a bit. And then I realized it's actually not hard at all. It's not hard at all. You don't miss it after a point. Yeah.
How does positive psychology play a role in the way you deal with your clients and patients?
Positive psychology is actually the study of leading a better quality life, not just getting from a state of illness to ground zero. It's not about psychopathology. It's about, resilience and grit and positivity and all those things. And I think one of the ways in which it has helped me in my practice is to be able to motivate people. So, we know that giving them the tools and the skills to eat better and eat healthier and recipes and all that's fine. Even telling them how much to exercise or what exercise to do is fine. But unless they continue to remain motivated, it's quite likely that if there is a little hiccup in their life, they could fall off the wagon. So identifying and keeping them motivated is really the key, I think. And I think that goes back to psychology. How do you keep a person motivated to continue to exercise? What are the things that you can do to help them stay motivated? And that is one of the things that positive psychology teaches you to do. So, self-efficacy and, all of that. So I think that is one of the reasons why I feel that having support groups and psychological counseling in the support groups and talking about issues other than just exercise and diet, like, for instance, your dysfunctional relationship with food, or even something like your childhood patterns of how you relate to food, and how food was probably used as reward and punishment, can actually play out into your adult life. So these things, when you make the person aware of these things and discuss it, especially if it's in a support group, it seems to help them. It seems to help them understand and also internalize it better. And when you give them other tools and, like, for instance, help them focus on things like gratitude, help them understand that positivity, the various emotions of positivity, like your pride and joy and awe and gratitude being one of them, excitement. When you teach them, how to focus on these things, for instance, then it actually reduces the negativity in their life. It helps them overcome the negativity in their life. So that's also one of the ways in which you can actually keep them more positive to be able to follow certain lifestyle changes, because lifestyle change is hard. So unless you stay motivated, stay positive, it's hard to sustain it. So if you're having a bad day and if you're feeling really low and down, the likelihood of you reaching for that comfort packet of chips or the sweet or whatever it is so much higher. So keeping your emotions boosted is really important, and keeping the motivation high to sustain exercise is really important. So in all these areas, I think positive psychology really plays a very, very important role.
Yeah. And I think it all works together, because when people exercise, whether they feel like it or not, they eat better, they sleep better, their mood is better. So it's, yeah.
Absolutely. It's a wonderful, circle of,
But just to get people started, that can sometimes be tricky. But it's funny. It's kind of like, one of the things that I have all these like things on my bucket list, like, then I'm in my 60s now, like I'm trying to learn magic and I'm trying to learn juggling. And, once you learn how to juggle, it's easy. I mean, because if juggling was hard, nobody would juggle. The learning of the juggling is a little bit hard because you have to, you start with one ball and then two and then more.
So how many do you juggle with now?
Oh, I'm not even there yet. I'm just starting. But what I'm saying is the idea of learning it, you start with one ball, then you do two, and then you don't start juggling lawnmowers is what I'm saying. But what I'm trying to say is that people that juggle, and once you learn how to juggle, it's pretty easy to keep those balls in the air. But the idea is you have to practice. You can't just say, well, gosh, I ate a salad and I'm still diabetic. No, or I took a walk and I'm still overweight. You have to keep doing it, is what I'm saying.
Yes, absolutely. And that's where the motivation comes in, because most people lose interest and lose motivation after the first, let's say, couple of, maybe a couple of weeks, and then they're like, okay, I'm done. Because a lot of times, the goals they set are so unrealistic. They expect to lose 10 kilos in a month or whatever it is. So it becomes important for them to understand how to set realistic goals, and all of these things are guided through lifestyle medicine and positive psychology as well. So it's really important. I teach an online class, Chef AJ, 3 times a week, exercise class, and one of the reasons I do that is it gets me to exercise as well. I cannot not teach it. I mean, unless I've got a patient in labor or something where I get one of my students to teach it. Otherwise, I have to be there. And because I'm teaching it, I really need to, stay on top of the game. So I think you also need to find little things that will keep you there, keep you on track, find little reasons for yourself, find little techniques to keep you on track. And people learn that as they keep exercising, and especially for exercise, I find this is important.
I love that you said that people have unrealistic expectations, especially where weight loss is concerned, because I used to be 50 pounds heavier, but it took me like over 2 years to lose the weight. And so many people do unhealthy diets like keto to lose weight quickly. They're not really losing fat, and they don't realize that fat is lost at a very, very slow rate, and they want to see results quickly, but they really, at the end of the day, aren't interested in changing their lifestyle. They're wanting the results, but they don't want the work.
Yeah. Very true. Yeah.
So what are your personal practices to stay and keep healthy?
Oh, well, exercise for one, for sure, because that's something that I literally can't do without now. And I see to it that I try and do it at least once a day. And what I mean by that is sometimes my walk, that I go for in the evening would be something in addition to a workout that I've probably done in the morning. And I wouldn't consider that exercise. I would consider that like an unwinding, de-stressor kind of thing. So exercise for sure. And of course, my whole food plant-based diet definitely helps. And I think as far as stress reduction and, trying to keep everything together mentally, mindfulness and mindful meditation has helped me a lot. I don't do a lot of it, but even 10 minutes once or maybe twice a day I find is extremely helpful, because it helps you understand that whole concept of mindfulness and the fact that you can actually control those thoughts that are running around in your head. And another thing that I really like is, especially if I'm kind of wound up quite a bit, there's something called Yoga Nidra, which is available online on YouTube. You can find it. It's basically progressive muscle relaxation, where you're guided. It's like a progressive meditation, and you can choose a 10 minutes routine or a 20-minute routine. And invariably, if you listen to that, you're literally falling asleep, because it's so amazingly relaxing. I find that helps a lot. And I think one of the things that has kept me going, literally these are like the pillars of lifestyle medicine. One of the things that has kept me going are my, I don't have too many very close social connections, but I have some really close ones. And I think that has really sustained me through my rough times, good times, bad times, and all of that. In fact, one of my very dear friends is in Boston, in the US. So they're all over the world, but they are people who have kept me going through very, very difficult times as well. So the social connectedness comes in there. My sleep, I'm still working on, Chef AJ, because of my years of bad sleeping. I find that even the slightest noise, would wake me up and I cannot go back to sleep. So sleep, I'm still working on. And I think that's a big one for me. Yeah.
Well, it must be hard because those babies come when they come. They don't come
Oh,
when
yes.
it's convenient. Yeah.
Yeah. They believe in just being as disruptive as possible. Yeah.
Well, I've done yoga nidra and also restorative yoga, and I love it. I'd love to get somebody to do yoga nidra on the show, except I'd probably fall asleep while I'm talking to them. But that is a beautiful practice. If people want to get in touch with you or take your classes, or maybe if they live in India, see you as a patient, or maybe follow you on social media, where would someone find you?
So my handle is at Dr. Sheela Nambiar, DrSheela Nambiar, and I also have a website which is drsheelanambiar.com, where you have a form there where you can fill it in and reach me.
Great. Well, thank you so much for the work that you're doing.
Thank you so much, Chef AJ.
It is my pleasure. And thanks to all of you for watching another episode of Chef AJ Live. Please come back tomorrow for another fabulous